So in a video the other day, I was talking to you guys about that I posted. I showed you just a little snippet from a 40-minute video that I took, kind of the foundation that you need to lunge a horse properly. Now, I was going to show you guys how to lunge a horse properly, but it was very clear as I was making that video that Philly Nick was not ready to show you guys kind of exactly what I'm looking for, that we needed to work on some other things like giving at the shoulders and things like that first before we even moved on to getting them to lunge properly. Now, a lot of people, when they go to lunge a horse, I want you to watch how Reba reacts here. When I go to lunge her, like most people would ask a horse to lunge, like 90% of people that I see when I'm at a clinic or something like that, when they go to ask their horse to lunge, this is what they do. And this is the way what I would call is incorrect. They step into their horse's space and they get them moving around. And I want you to look at, and you can see she's cutting in on this circle. The lead line's just almost dragging on the ground. She's coming into my circle here. You can see that she's definitely worked up. And she's kind of snorty there for a second. The way that she's trotting, you could just see that she's not, she's not comfortable. Her body language right there, what she's telling me is she's not comfortable. And even now when I'm asking her to stop, she's just trying to kind of like, oh, what am I doing? You pushed me out there. You were aggressive with your body language. And just everything about her, she was cutting into my circle. She was just kind of hot trotting around. She wasn't paying attention. Everything about her wasn't showing me that she was ready to work. She wasn't mentally there and focused. All it did was make her anxious and kind of frazzled. And so I showed you guys with Phil. And remember, when you're starting a horse under saddle, I've had a lot of people ask me, what do I need to know when it comes to starting a horse under saddle? What do I need to know? I want to start colts under saddle. And I ask them, have you ever finished a horse? Or have you ridden enough finished horses to know what you're looking for in a finished horse? And if that person tells me no, but I've ridden a lot, I'll tell them you have no business starting a horse under saddle. Because if you do not know what that end goal looks like or feels like, you have no business starting a colt under saddle. Because if you don't know what it's like to ride a horse that responds to feel before pressure is ever even engaged, you have no business setting the foundation on a horse. Because all you're going to do is make a horse that somebody has to fix your mistakes later on. You have to start everything that you do. Start a colt under saddle, groundwork, every single thing that you do with a horse, you have that end goal in mind, that finished spade bit bridle horse in mind, or that finished trail horse. However you want that horse to respond to you in the end, that's your end goal. And from day one working with that horse, you work that horse with that end goal in mind, keeping in mind that when I ask my horse to do something, I want them to start understanding that they're going to operate off of a feel. And so things like this, being particular, talk all the time about being particular. Be particular about your equipment, about your mindset, about how you ride, how you train. Be particular. Particular horses make great horses. And it's the ones that you just hop on and you go and ride around like they're an ATV parked in your shed. They're not an ATV. You can't just let them sit and get on them and ride them like a sack of potatoes for a whole year and not even care how you're riding, and they're going to stay the same every single time you get on them. That horse, if you get on them and ride them like you don't care and you're just going out there willy-nilly, that horse is going to end up responding like you don't care. You have to be particular with your horses. So one of the things that I was telling you guys about, that I was going to show you when it comes to lunging your horse, you want your horse to be able to back off of a feel on your lead rope. Be able to stand here and just go, hey, get back there. Get back there. I got my lunge whip in the wrong hand here. Get back there. She's coming up at me, so I'm getting after her there. Get her back on that hind end. And then we're just going to get her to yield those shoulders. Now we're going to go out. Get her to tee off, then go out. Look at her body language now. Versus how when I started her off lunging, like everybody else lunges a horse in the world, she's licking and she's chewing. She's not dragging that lead rope on the ground, coming into my space. She took off at a walk. She's waiting for me to ask. From the get-go, I was demanding her attention and asking her, hey, focus on me, wait for me to ask, I'm asking. All right, next step. Look at how much different her body language is versus when I asked her to lunge off. And there's been a lot of people that I've had come out and be like, all right, show me how to lunge a horse. And Reba is a great tell on people. You could see there just lunging her in properly there. She got all worked up. Whereas right now, you could tell she's waiting for me to ask her the next step. What are you going to ask me to do next, Mom? So I'm going to ask her to trot here. I just kind of step at her. See, her trot's a lot nicer. There, she's trying to kind of drift off towards the other horses. Almost running into the camera. Oh, you feeling a little spicy today. But she's not cutting into my circle. She's a lot more relaxed. She's licking and chewing. She's still kind of trying to drift off to the other horses there and use that as an excuse, but you can tell, we're going to ask her to go out there, kind of drifting in. We're getting a little spicy here. Hey. There we go. See right here, we're kind of running into a battle of the wills. She's wanting to drift towards the other horses, so we're just gonna kind of, hey, settle down, bring your attention back. Now, she hasn't really been ridden or worked with much, so I expected a little extra energy. Ooh, but what we're gonna do here, what a lot of people would assume what they need to do is if their horse started behaving this way, when they go to lunge them, those little bucks and, you know, kind of hopping around and trotting and snorting, what's most people's reaction going to be to a horse that does that? It's going to be, oh, we need to lunge you faster and get that energy out. My mindset is, your mind's not on me. Your mind is on 100 other different things. Let's do stuff to get your mind back on me. So we're going to work on some exercises here. Like, hey, get your mind back on me here for a second. A lot of people's assumption when a horse starts acting up, lunging, is that horse has a bunch of pent-up energy. And then, you know, yeah, she has a bunch of energy. She hasn't been ridden and worked with in a long time, but her mind's not on me. My priority is, I don't care if you have energy. I care that you focus on me and respond to me. You can have as much energy in the world as long as you're looking to me and say, where do I put this energy? I don't want to run that energy out of them. I want my horses to have energy, but I don't want to run it out of them and make them dull and tired and sweat it up before I even get on. I want them to bring their mind back to me. So we're going to do things like that. We're going to, all right, let's get your hips. Let's get your hips around. Focus on me, not the horses over there that you're drifting towards. All right, let's get your hips on this side. Let me get on this side. Get your hips on this side. There we go. Good. Let's get a nice back. Hey, nice back. Like that. Ooh. Come forward. We'll go over here for the next part. Let's try to get your hips. Get your hips over. Get your hips over. Focus on me and what I'm asking. Get your hips. All right. Let's get your shoulders. Ooh. Let's get your shoulders. Shoulders over. Give me those shoulders. Control of the shoulders. Nice backwards. See right here, I'm really, really happy with what she's doing. She's not planting that hind end, but she's keeping that spin in a backwards motion. She's not leaking forward. That makes me really happy right there. We're going to stop and give her a good pet for that. She wasn't trying to leak forward on that. I've worked with her enough that she knows that when we're spinning in a circle and we're engaging our hind end, that's a backwards motion and we're getting that hind end ready to lock and load. Try it again. Let's get your shoulders. And if your horses can't do these things right here that I'm doing with Reba without jerking and pulling on them, your horses aren't ready to start lunging properly. Now, if you need to lunge your horse to feel safe and comfortable, that's fine. Lunge your horse to feel safe and comfortable getting on them. But if you're really wanting to start getting nitpicky and stuff, and you're wanting to start getting your horse to where they start lunging properly, engaging that hind end and getting that focused mentality, you're going to need your horse to where first your horse can back off of this all the way to the end of your line. That when you ask your horse to back, it's just this right here. And then get to where your horse, come back here. Good girl. She's confused. She's like, why are you asking me to come back? Don't we lunge next? You want your horse to where you can get him to back, but all you do is you just, hey, I want you to get back. That's the first step to getting your horse to lunge properly. This right here, getting your horse to back on the end of that line all the way until you ask him to stop. That's the first step. The second step to getting your horse to lunge properly is, like I said, getting those shoulders. Getting that shoulder control. And making sure that when you get this shoulder control, it is a backwards movement. Like that. Then you want to get it to where I want that shoulder. I want that shoulder. I want that shoulder. Shoulder. We're kind of getting into the bushes here. See if I could get her to do it here. Want that shoulder. Get that shoulder to move out with you pretty close, far back. You want her going out from you. You don't have to be right here to get that shoulder to move out. If I ask her to back and I say, hey, get that shoulder, hey, she's anticipating here, which is fine. I like having horses that anticipate the next move, but I want them to wait to act on it until I ask them to. So I want that shoulder from here. There we go. And it starts out as small steps like that. And get them to where, and get them to stop. You want them to, there we go. That's what I want right there. Is exactly what I want her to do. I can get her to give her shoulders eventually. Now, Reba's not quite there yet because we're kind of doing a refresher on all of this after being used as my husband's cowboy horse for a while and haven't been able to work with her on a regular basis. I want to get her to, I can get her out to the end of that line and I'm going to go, give me that shoulder from the end of this line. That is what I want her to do. Understand that when I step out in front and I ask for that shoulder, that's what she gives me. Just like that from the end of this line. Now right now, it's not super pretty. I have to step in and get some slack in that line. But if I came out here every day and I worked with her, Reba's super quick. If I just came out here every day and did this, I guarantee you by the end of the week, all I'd have to do is sit here to get her to back up. I wouldn't even need this lunge whip anymore. I just go, hey, back. And she'd start backing. And to get her to give that shoulder, all I'd have to do is go, hey. And I wouldn't even have to step forward. So just to get her to go back, I'd just go, hey, back. And she'd back. And to get her to give that shoulder, I just go, hey, like that. Just kind of close off with my hands, just showing her with my hands what I want, and she'd do it. So right now I kind of have to step into her space and close off that area, but that's fine. But that's how you're going to get that nice controlled movement. And then you're going to want to work on your horse if you're really wanting to be particular. See, right now where Reba's at, I would ask her to lunge off. She's teed off, she's standing there, she backed to the end of the line, she teed off, moved that shoulder away. And once we start creating this into one fluid motion, she's going to have that hind end engaged and be ready to take off. This is a way that your horse is going to learn to respect your space. They're not going to cut across your circle or anything like that. But for where she's at right now, I would be happy to ask Reba to lunge. Next step that I would ask in, being particular with my horses, is I would want her to understand that, hey, I want you to back up now, teed off. And we're going to shoulder, now back up, teed off, now go. Get that hind end engaged, get her set back on that hind end, and get her moving. And that's how I would ask a horse to properly lunge. Now pretty soon, when you got a horse that you're teaching to lunge properly like that, and you're not just going, all right, go. They're gonna automatically, when you send them off, you're gonna go, all right, I'm standing here, pretend that I'm Reba. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna ask that horse, all right, let's back up, back up, get out of my space, we're gonna lunge. All right, give me your shoulders, all right. And then they're going to know once you add that back in step, so that horse is going to get out of your space. How you start your lunge is not by forward movement, by asking them to go out, is going to be by back out of my space, off of that feel, give your shoulders, lock that hind end, go. And get that collection from the ground. When you start moving those things, all of those things into one fluid motion, that's what's going to happen with your horse. And next thing you know, they're going to be going. And when you ask your horse to, they're going this direction, you ask them, and it's the same thing when you ask them to stop and change directions. Stop, back up, give the shoulder, turn, go. And so then when you ask your horse to turn when you're lunging them, it's going to be like that. I'm sorry, Reebies. I'm moving all weird. She's like, what the heck are you doing, Mom? So being particular with those types of things is how you get great horses. And being particular on the ground with how you lunge your horse is how you're going to get a horse that when you start getting on them and riding them, they're going to start collecting on their own. They're going to know that when you stop with your hind end. They're going to know that when you turn on your hind end and you go and use your hind end. So when you're lunging, see if we can get a semi-decent way to show you guys here. All right, so we're going to let her shake the flies out, get her to back out of my space. We're going to go to lunging here. We're going to back out. Okay. There we go. We're going to give those shoulders. Then we're going to back some more. Get that hind end ready. All right, now go. You notice I'm not really using the whip with her either. The whip is just kind of a visual, like, hey, if I needed to be like, I mean business, she'll know. And then if I asked her to do something, I could touch her with it. But I don't have this whip to beat on her with it. This whip is just another visual cue for her. See, like right here, she's wanting to stop and I didn't ask her to stop. So that whip was just another visual thing. So when you go to ask your horses to go, everything is in a relaxed position right here. Your hands are relaxed. When you want them to go a little bit faster, you walk in, kind of put pressure on that hip there. And the faster walk is all I wanted her to do there. I didn't want her to pick up a trot yet. If I wanted her to pick up a trot, I would have clucked twice and I would have put a little bit more pressure on her. If I wanted her to lope, I would kiss. But we're not worried about loping in a little circle on this kind of muddy ground here. See right here, she's going to stop. Instead of taking that lunge whip and using it, all I'm doing is going in towards that hip and pointing again for her, letting her know, hey, keep going. Now, when I want her to slow down, I would stay in a neutral spot, kind of right at her shoulder, and she stopped, which is okay. But when she stopped there, I want you guys to notice too that she stayed teed off to me. She didn't face up. The reason why she stayed teed off is because I didn't ask her to face up. I just want her to stop. And I want to get her to where, hey, I want you to back up right there too. Yeah. Oh, she's going to face up. We're going to, now we're kind of messing up. I was trying to show off and it didn't work. Ooh. There we go. Hey. Now I want her eventually to be able to back up, teed off to me. But that's okay too. So we'll ask her to give those shoulders. Hey, I didn't ask you to give those shoulders. There we go. She backed up while giving her shoulders. Now we'll ask her to go by pointing out and opening up that front, just like this. Now, if I were to want her to change directions, changing directions is not while lunging. This isn't changing directions. I'll show you changing directions. Even Reba's like, what in tarnation are you doing there? That makes absolutely no sense. And it makes me want to run you over. Changing directions is going to be, back up. We're going to switch everything to the other hand so she knows this is going to be a direction change, not just backing. We're going to point the way we want her to go, just like if we were to. Now here she's a little bit stiff on this side, so we are going to use this whip as kind of a extra little to get those shoulders. Get those shoulders out. There we go. Then we go off. And see here, she's a little bit sticky on this side. She wants to stop and face up a lot. So this side is kind of where I'm going to use that whip and have it come into play. So I'm going to see she is coming into my space. We're going to take that whip and say, get out of my space. That whip is just an extension of your arm saying, get out of my space. Keep going. Don't face up. I didn't ask you to face up. Get out of my space. Essentially, this whip right here, like I said, is an extension of my arm. So if I were standing, if I ask her to move properly, she would. So if I were standing, let me drop that for a second. If I were standing right here, and Reba were to cut in and almost run me over, in my mind when I'm lunging her and she cuts in and that lead rope goes to drag on the ground, it is the same to me that if I were standing right here and she were to take that shoulder and ram it into me. It is just as disrespectful for her to cut into that circle that I created for her and let that line drag on the ground than it is for her to take this shoulder and rub it into me and run me over. So essentially what I'm doing with that whip is this. Get out of my space. That's all I'm doing. When I say a whip is an extension of my hand, I'm meaning, I know, sweetie. Reba's always been, BLM Mustangs are usually particularly funky and always kind of a little bit funky about the right side because day one, their exposure to humans until they're adopted is all on the left side. So generally BLM Mustangs need a lot of work done on their right side to catch up with the months, if not years, of human exposure on their left side that they never received on their right. But anyways, when I say that whip is an extension of my arm, I'm saying that it is a visual extension. It is not a smack her, get out of my way. It is the same as me going, get out of my space. You know, it's the same as, hey, get out of my space. Just putting my hands up there. When I say that whip is an extension of my arm, that's what I mean. I mean that if she were to come in towards me right here, I would go, hey, no, get out of my space. And that's the same thing that I'm doing with that whip. That whip is a visual extension of my arm so that when she's going around this circle here and cuts across, to me, because I'm particular about my horses, her cutting across the circle is the same as her going, get out of my way. So I'm taking that whip and doing the same thing as, no, get out of my space. So let's go back to the lunging here. Get her to back up, back up, back up. We're gonna give those shoulders. And we're gonna use that whip because she's a little bit sticky. There we go. And since she's sticky on this side, and you can see that she's not as quite as far along as getting those shoulders to give on this side, I'm not being as particular. We got some more work to do going to the right. So as long as she gives her shoulders and tees off to me, that's fine. Once we're consistent and get her to the point where she was like she was on going to the left, to where I could get her to tee off and stop just by doing this, you know, changing my hand. I may have had to step in a little bit on her. Then it's the same thing. So we're just, there we go. Getting her to give those shoulders. And sometimes I'll even work on this. You know, let's give those shoulders from here. There we go. All right, I'm coming into your space. Give those shoulders from here. There we go. We got a nice side step there. Ooh. Ask her to back. This is more what a direction change is going to kind of look like. Now we step off. That's what I'm asking for. Now you can see here her whole demeanor is different than in the beginning of the video when I asked her to take off at a lunge. She was trotting all hot and heavy and just worried and antsy about the other horses. Now we've spent a couple of minutes. Hey. Now we've spent a few minutes, probably 30 or so, working on getting her mind back to me. Notice when I even asked her to trot earlier, after sending her off the correct way, she was antsy. See how just spending some time with your horse, getting their mind on you. I didn't run any energy off of her. You guys saw I didn't sit here and run her in circles for 45 minutes, getting her sweating lathered up to get her to give me this nice trot right here, where she's not prancing around like a burnout barrel horse. All I did with her was I asked her to get her mind back on me. Focus on me. We didn't burn off any energy. We just got that mind back. And she's still got, you could see her tossing her head and stuff. She's a salty Reba. She's a mare. You know, she's opinionated. Reba is the boss. But she still listened to me when I asked her to do something. Ooh. Don't come into my space. See right there, I'm being particular. I didn't ask her to come into me. But you could see the difference in her mindset there from asking her to trot right there versus at the beginning when I asked her to trot. And she was tossing her head. She kind of crow hopped a little bit over here. She was, you know, straying out towards these horses, and then she'd hit the end of the rope and her hind end would go out. She even kind of slipped a little bit. Whoops, excuse me. Don't mind that. It was the baby's fault. You know, she's just hot and bothered and had energy on her. 90% of people, the way that, even though I sent her off correctly, the way that I would send off a horse to lunge, and she had that foundation, she still had that pent-up energy. I didn't sit here and run the energy out of her for 20 minutes before being like, okay, now let's focus. I said, you know what? Let's get that mind on me and get you focused and confident in me. And she still has all of that energy in her, but now she's focused on me and saying, what are you going to ask me to do next? Because I spent, 15, 20 minutes saying, no, we're not going to run around like an idiot. We're not going to buck, and we're not going to jump, and we're not going to sit here and run the energy out of you so that I feel comfortable getting on your back. I said, you know what? Let's take a step back here. Let's move your feet. Let's ask you to do some different things. Let's get your mind focused on the game. We need your energy. We want your energy. We don't want to waste your energy chasing you around in a circle for 45 minutes before we go and do our job. But I want your mind to be with me. I want you to be saying, Mom, where do you want me to put this energy? Where do you want me to direct this energy? I don't want to waste the energy. I want that energy in my horse. I want my horse that when I ask them to do something, they're going to have the energy to do it. And they're going to, okay, let's do it. But running the energy off of a horse, lunging them in circles for 45 minutes until they're all sweated up and lathered before you get on, it's not going to do your horse any good. All you're doing is running off energy. It's not getting your horse focused on you at all. When you take a step back and say, okay, you got a lot of things going on in your mind right now. You're focusing on the other horses. You're focusing on jumping around. All right, so let's get them shoulders freed up. Let's get that hind end freed up. Let's get moving your feet. Let's remind you that, hey, I know I can move your feet. You know that I'm in control of your feet. When I say this, it means that. When I say this, it means that. When I say this, it means that. And just doing a little bit of exercises. None of those things that I did prior to getting that trot got her sweaty. None of those things made her break a sweat. But I got better results from doing those things than I would have chasing her around for 30 minutes in a circle making her break a sweat. It's about getting your horse's mind on you and focused on you, so that they are wanting to know, where do you want me to direct this energy? And they're not going, they're not too tired. When I get on her here in a couple minutes and I go to work on transitions, I bet you the first couple minutes may be a little rough, but getting on her, getting that mindset on me of, hey, I'm on your back now, you need to focus on me. I'm going to barely have to do anything with her to get her to transition to a trot, to a walk, to a lope, to a walk, to a trot. We're going to work on transitions, getting that going. And it's not going to take much with her because she's already focused on me. Whereas if I were to go run her around for 45 minutes, get her lathered up in a sweat, and then got on her, for one, she'd probably do the same thing when I got on her back, all hot and bothered. For two, when it did finally come time for her to be mentally focused on me, and the reason why she's mentally focused is because she's physically tired now, when I go to ask her for things and be more quick and spiffy with stuff, she's not going to be able to do those things. She's not going to have the energy to do those things because I already wasted it all trying to get her mind back on me, when all I had to do was get her feet moving around, get her focused on me from the beginning.